Hello, good day, everyone, on day 26 here. Let's keep on rolling. Today is a topic that I gotta say is a trigger. It's a trigger for everyone. It's a trigger for everyone across the board. I mean, this triggers kids, this triggers teenagers, adults, seniors, all across the board. Across the board, this is a big one here, and that is looking at when the last time you said sorry. So humbling yourself to someone is quite tough, and it's tough because accountability is part of that. And when we don't take accountability for the things that we have said and done, that stays stuck. That stays stuck in here. And because humbling yourself is part of that accountability piece, and it's actually viewed many times as a weakness. So if you've said sorry to somebody or acknowledged that if you have hurt somebody and you acknowledge that that wasn't your intention, and I apologize, that's not what I intended. There is a vulnerability piece there, and remember what I said about vulnerability. It's the biggest, best measurement of courage. And so many people think, this is a myth, many people think that if they're apologizing, if they're taking accountability and humbling themselves, then they're weak. And saying sorry, taking accountability for the things that you've done in your life to the people that you have done this to, whatever that looks like, it's different for everybody. It really does release the prison stories in your head. You feel lighter. You feel lighter about it. Okay, and this is a big part again of recovery in general. And yes, just because I work in addiction, there's that mental health piece there as well. And we are here for experiences. We are on earth for these experiences. Our soul craves these life lessons. And so nobody here watching, including myself on the other side here, is free from this humbling yourself piece. Nobody has went through their life without doing something consciously or unconsciously that has, really hurt somebody physically or emotionally, financially. I mean, the list goes on. You would have to determine that for yourself. Every scenario is different, but everybody has something to release in this area. And so today I ask you, is there anyone that you need to make an amends with? And making an amends is a very big part of recovering, realigning with your identity. In order for you to authentically realign with your identity, it's this kind of stuff needs to be looked at. It's the shadow work. And you're not responsible for the other person to forgive you. That's not what you're responsible for. You're only responsible for yourself and acknowledging it. So if you say, well, absolutely, I've got people that and even though you don't agree, with their response on how they were hurt, or if their boundaries got breached, or you might not agree with it, but sometimes we need to be empathetic. many times we need to be empathetic, and it's okay to say, you know what, that absolutely wasn't my intention, and I didn't think of it that way, or I didn't mean it to come off this way. However, I see that you have been hurt in this process, and I want to find a way how we can move from this, or move along from this, being released and moving forward, not holding those resentments, because that resentment piece comes in with forgiveness and making an amends. And when this is not cleared, when this shadow work is not looked at, what happens? It stays in your field, and those resentments get pretty heavy. So, and even if you are not talking to this person right now, if they're not even with us anymore, you can still write a letter. You can still set your intentions, maybe go out in nature, light a candle, and acknowledge and apologize, because if they pass, well, they're still listening. They're very much part of the ether here and energy. And if you don't feel maybe it's not safe even to acknowledge in terms of making an amends, that's depending on your scenario. But I definitely encourage, if this person is still in your life, and if they're not, and you have broken the relationship because there's this unfinished business, and we're so proud of holding on to our identity, and we don't want to admit that we were wrong in something, because society, for some reason, the myth is, if you're going to admit that you're wrong, that you admit that you're sorry, then you were wrong in this. And that shows weakness. And it's actually the opposite. It shows courage. It really, really shows courage. And if the other person's going to throw it in your face and say, I told you, and that's not what this is about. And so if you are going to commit to humbling yourself and taking accountability with somebody face to face, then if they're going to go back and forth, and if they're going to really, really shame you, that's not what this is about. So you absolutely are able to release that. It's the same thing, but the universe is watching. You're watching. Your higher self is watching. And said, I did take accountability. They are not meeting, they're not where I am at, and that's okay. You're not responsible for anybody else. You don't need forgiveness to move on. Self-forgiveness is one thing, but because that's within. Forgiveness from others, when you do make an apology, when you do make an amends with somebody, they may not be ready. And that's not what this is about. Again, another myth. You don't need a forgiveness to do this work, to release this burden on you. And be kind with yourself. If there's somebody out there that you need to reach out to, be kind with yourself, and honor that you are working on yourself. You are evolving. This is a journey, not a destination. It's a process here. And as you look at yourself and you are healing, you need to release these resentments. Okay. I mean, I know for myself, being the mom of 3 small children, I make mistakes all the time. I do. I make mistakes, and there's sometimes I say things that I shouldn't say. And so you talk about our kids being our biggest teachers. You talk about our kids. If you can allow your kids to help you with your soul's evolution, like they're your biggest triggers. They are here to help you with the ascension, really, to ascend with yourself, with your soul. And so they trigger in me. So I say things, I do things. I've got to admit, I'm a loud talker, and that comes, sometimes I yell, and that's a response because I feel out of control of the situation. So if I'm yelling, and I'm wanting them to do something so bad that I actually raise my voice to them in order for them to do it, what that tells me is that I'm actually in fear. It tells me that I'm out of control and I want to instill fear in my children. And so, a lot of parents yell, but watch what it does to your children. And by all means, like I said, I'm not perfect. But what it does I know I don't like being yelled at. So why would they be any different? And they're small, and their brains are not developed yet. But we are feeling out of control in that moment. So what we do is we threat, we bargain, we do, and by all means, we're human. We're human. But that definitely sets the blueprint for how they are going to respond in their contrasting situations and how they're going to respond when they are feeling out of control. Even with the kids, I'm not in, yes, there's rules. Yes, there's structure. Yes, there's absolutely, but that's not what I'm talking about here. And getting back to that humbling piece. So when I do raise my voice to get control, to impose fear so they can do what I want them to do, the oppressed, it starts young. So your parents did it. My parents did it. My mom was a huge yeller. But I'm thankful and grateful for this. And so that gives me opportunity to take my kids aside and say that was completely inappropriate what I said. And mommy is learning, and that was not okay. Nothing you can do or what you have done can justify me speaking to you like that and me raising my voice. And so for this household, it's hands off. Nobody is allowed to. There's Maya, by all means, I got 3 small kids. They're constantly kicking the shit out of each other. But hands off is a rule in this household. So that was a deal breaker right when I decided to be a parent, was hands off, because it never worked with me, with my upbringing, actually caused a lot of harm. But emotionally as well, emotional harm is very real. So when I say to my kids, I'm sorry, I apologize for that. And then watching it, it's not that you're going to fix it the first apology, especially with kids, but it gets better. It gets better, and the coping strategies come. So, okay, instead of trying to control this situation, what can I do instead? If I'm feeling myself boiling, if I know something is going to come out of my mouth that is not going to be very nice, what do I do for my kids and for myself? And that's a walk away. That's a walk away. All right. But yeah, humbling yourself all around. I gave so many examples there. And ultimately, it is a release for you, making an amends. Let's be kind and compassionate to one another. Even though we don't agree with the person on the other end, humble, that's what the definition of humbling yourself is putting your opinions aside for a second and understanding that something you've done or said has hurt somebody's heart. Okay. And you're doing it for you, and you're not accepting or expecting forgiveness, but you're releasing this for you, and you're acknowledging it for you in order for you to lead with your heart in the future. Okay. So I'll leave you with that today. Have a beautiful day. I'm sending all the light, all the love, and be kind. Please be kind. Bye for now.